And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
The first contestant for Moron of the Week comes from NBCnews.com. This is by Kalen Rosenblatt from December 1st, 2019. Maine Man dies after being shot by his own booby trap. A Maine man was killed after being shot by a device when he had installed on the front door to protect his home from intruders. On Thursday evening, the Van Buren Police Department dispatched officers to the home of Ronald Sear, 65, who reported that he had been shot, according to officials. Officer Chandler Chandler Madore, that's how I'll say it. And the Van Buren Ambulance Service arrived to provide medical assistance to Sear and discovered that the front door of Sear's home had been outfitted with a device designed to fire a handgun should anyone attempt to enter the door, according to a press release. Police also discovered numerous other unknown devices in the home that needed to be investigated by the bomb squad. Sear was taken to a nearby hospital, where he died from the gunshot he sustained. Police later determined that Sear had died as a result of being unintentionally shot by one of his homemade devices. Details about the homemade device were not immediately available, which is probably a good thing, because I suspect that there'd be some people trying to emulate that. Oh, I can do it better. Watch this. Hold my beer. Second contestant isn't an individual, though. It is a group of people. Those of you who were paying attention know that prior to the Supreme Court hearing the arguments of the NYSRPA versus NYC case, there were a lot of protesters outside the Supreme Court building. This is a piece from Town Hall by Beth Bauman from December 2nd. NRA asked anti-gunners the name of the SCOTUS case they were protesting. Their responses are amazing. Earlier today, the Supreme Court of the United States heard its first Second Amendment case in nearly a decade. The case, known as New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus New York City, challenges the city's ban on carrying legal, locked, and unloaded firearms outside of the city limits. All eyes have been on this case because it's unclear whether or not the justices will make a decision on the case or drop it because of mootness. New York City knew their ban was wrong, so they revoked it. Gun rights advocates, however, want the Supreme Court to rule in the case. Their concern is that if SCOTUS drops the case, that the city can re-implement the ban. Out of that very concern, Chief Justice John Roberts quizzed the city's attorney on that issue, the Washington Times reported. Gun control has been a major issue in our country lately, so it's no surprise that Everytown for Gun Safety and Moms Demand Action volunteers, the group funded by billionaire Michael Bloomberg, the same guy that's running for president, decided to show up outside the court with signs. It's almost as though they were bussed in for that event, given signs and told to stand there and look angry. The National Rifle Association's social media team asked anti-gunners the name of the case and what the case was about, and none of them seemed to know. Shocker, right? The name of the case, I don't know, one man said. Actually, frankly speaking, I did not read. I was recruited here to represent my grandchildren. Later in the video, the same man is shown talking about the NRA. Demand action for shutting down the NRA, he said. The man also suggested getting rid of the Second Amendment because a gun for self-protection is not relevant at all today. Really? Well, we'll talk about that in our next segment, the self-defense shoutouts, huh? We live in a civilized society and must protect the interest of everybody, he explained. Tell that to the criminals. Another man seemed to think the case was about so-called assault weapons. We want to ban assault weapons, he said. When asked how an assault weapon is defined, his response was even more facepalm-worthy. Well, anything that can fire as fast as you can pull the trigger, he responded. Based on that definition alone, all guns would be banned. NRA tweeted, "Note to Everytown, you should provide your protesters with the most basic information about what they're protesting. This was rather embarrassing today. Your supporters labeled us a criminal organization, called for the repeal of the Second Amendment, and wanted to ban firearms." It's amazing that these anti-gunners don't have a set of talking points to go off of. Many had pre-printed signs, embroidered hats, and professionally made t-shirts. They're well funded, thanks to Michael Bloomberg, and many of them are probably bussed in from other parts of the country. At least if you're going to protest, know what it is you're protesting. Don't make assumptions about what the case might be about. Oh, let's watch this.
We're with NRA social media. What's the name of the case that you all are watching here today?
I don't know the name of the case.
The name of the case I don't know. Actually, frankly speaking, I did not read. I'm recruited here to represent my grandchildren.
And the name of the case?
Specifically,
She's not a lawyer, for Christ's sake. What's wrong with you?
I just wondered if you know the name of the case you're here for?
No.
National Rifle Association. And they are criminal organization. I don't hate to say it.
What's the name of the case you're here to watch?
New York City, New York Gun Club. I'm not sure that's the accurate name versus New York State. So no, thank you.
Well, it's a complex case. I won't touch upon all angles.
Do you mind if we just ask you the name of the case you're here to see today?
You know, I'm working. I'm sorry.
We're with NRA social media. If we just ask you about the case here today? We're with NRA social media. Do you mind if I ask you the name of the case you're here for today?
I don't know.
Demand action for shutting down NRA.
Morning. We're with NRA social media. Do you mind what's the name of the case you're here for?
Don't talk to them. Don't say anything.
Hi. Do you mind if we ask you, we're with the NRA social media, just what the name of this case is that you're here for today?
I don't recall the name. It's a New York City case.
Is this case about assault weapons?
We want to ban assault weapons.
Okay. And what are those again? How would you define those?
Well, anything that can fire as fast as you can pull a trigger.
Would you like to repeal the Second Amendment altogether?
Second Amendment to own the guns for self-protection. But today it's not relevant at all. Today we live in a civilized society and we must protect the interest of everybody.
That's brilliant. That is a brilliant piece of video there. That is awesome. So, here we go. That's our contestants for Moron of the Week. Maine Man or protesters? Go ahead and get your votes in out there in the chat. Roll call. Who do you vote for, Maine Man or protesters?
Protesters.
Squib, who do you vote for, Maine Man or protesters?
Last in particular.
I'm sorry? Was that the last protester in particular? I think that's what he said. I'll go with protesters. In the chat, let's see. Calaveras says protesters. Glimtech says the protesters take it hands down. Boob Sweat says protesters. So far, that's 5 for protesters and 0 for Maine Man. Anybody else out there want to weigh in? If you're out there listening, go ahead and leave a comment in the chat. Let us know. Maine Man who died from his own booby trap or protesters who didn't know what they were protesting? Kinky Sphincter, Indian guy, I will put that as protesters. D-Temp says Maine Man. So far, it's 6-1 for protesters. Anybody else? Bueller. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down here right quick. Go ahead and give me something, guys. Speak now or forever hold your peace. And we're done. We'll go ahead and call it for the protesters. They win. The protesters win. So, Bloomberg-backed protesters who had no idea what you were protesting, you are our morons of the week for December 6th, 2019.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.